when Neymar finished third in the 2015 Ballon D'Or behind just Messi and Ronaldo, there was only one road his career could have gone down. Taking on the torch from the GOAT conversationalists, winning Ballon D'Ors and going down as one of the greatest footballers to ever do it. Yet in 2023, aged 32, he's about to spend months on the sidelines whilst playing for Al Hilal and wasn't even nominated for the Ballon D'Or this season. So what exactly went wrong? And is this the end of Neymar? Here we go again, another video about Neymar. But to be honest, this is probably the most important video I'll make about Neymar, because on Brazilian international duty in their defeat against Uruguay, they went down after a pretty innocuous coming together, holding his knee, and you could tell he was in a lot of pain. And unfortunately, the result is a torn ACL and also meniscus muscle injury too, which is enough to keep most players out for at least 6-7 months. So we're talking a long spell on the sidelines for a 32-year-old who already seemingly is on the decline. This is the Neymar that Al Hilal are gonna have to roll out for the remainder of the Saudi Pro League season. You've got to despair as their owners, man. You've just forked out all that cash, all that money on his transfer fee and then his wages, only for him to spend a month at the club, get one goal, and then delete his ACL from his own hard drive. I remember a story making it into FTW a little while ago. I can't remember exactly when, but it was like Peruvian shamans who'd made like the equivalent of a voodoo doll and were stabbing it, and one of them stabbed him in the knee. Can't mess with Judge. And now Al Hilal fans are gonna be ransacking a random village in Peru. Speaking of his current club as well, Al Hilal players paid tribute to him after his injury. Malcolm, his Brazilian counterpart, holding up a Neymar shirt whilst he's out injured. Obviously Malcolm he'll know well, but the backup left wing back who's playing with the under-21s, Neymar won't be as familiar with. Who? And the club pulled out the interesting decision to make a graphic for his injury whilst he's screaming on the floor in pain. But don't forget the sponsors down in the right hand corner. You wouldn't download a knee. Now doesn't seem like a great time to be running the ads. But in this video we're gonna explain how Neymar's career seems to have taken such a downturn from the heroic era that he was enjoying at Barcelona, why exactly he's been struggling for fitness, and where of course he goes after his return from this ACL injury. Will we ever see the old Neymar again? And if you go on to learn some things or find out some information, then feel free to like and subscribe, and go ahead and follow me on TikTok. Got some short form content going out over there now. Now of course with Neymar we start our journey all the way back in Brazil and at Santos. Now, after trials at Real Madrid, he decided to stay at Santos during his youth academy experience, and in 2009 he'd make his full professional debut in March. Now remember this, he's age 17, and in his first season he'd play 48 games for the club, and of course impressed, scoring 14 times and reaching the Campeonato Paulista final with his club. But 48 games in a season, age 17, is nuts. This guy was a first teamer, first name on the team sheet from being a child. Now he's appearing on reality TV, he's being branded as the next Pele, and he's already a young prodigy by this point. In 2010 and in 2011, he's still playing a crazy amount of football for Santos. He's voted third in the South American Player of the Year in 2010 at just the age of 18. He wins the Puskás Award for a crazy solo run for Santos in 2011, and that goal, for me, highlights another difficulty that Neymar had. Now imagine, you're a defender, you're playing in Brazil, you're aged, I don't know, let's say for the sake of argument, you're 33, halfway towards a free bus pass, and you see a young kid with the maddest hairstyle of 2011 running at you and pulling out rainbow flicks, elasticos, dribbling ability you've never seen before, and you are quite literally from Brazil, so you've seen pretty much everything there is to see. That kid is getting double-footed. I don't know whether that, I can't condone that as a message. What I'm trying to say is Neymar was getting like battered and bruised even as a young footballer. During that goal, that Puskás Award winning goal, he could have been injured on 3 separate occasions during that. Anyway, he wins South America's Best Player in 2012 as his final season at Santos in 2013, and then of course makes that massive money move to Barcelona. 88 million euros is the fee, and he'd go on to form one of the deadliest partnerships that the world of football has ever seen. MSN, Messi, Suarez, Neymar. A partnership that was completely unplayable. And in 2015, of course, that potential would be realized. Winning Barcelona the treble, winning La Liga quite comfortably, wrapping up the Copa del Rey and scoring in the final, and then scoring the final goal in their 3-1 win over Juventus to lift the Champions League too. He is a Barcelona hero already. He's only been at the club 2 years, and he'd go on to reach even further heights too in terms of Barcelona stardom, inspiring that comeback against PSG, with late goals including a stunning free kick to win 6-1 against Unai Emery's side. This after winning the double the previous season and scoring a total of 131 goals between himself, Messi and Suarez. But there was one key thing that was a problem, and that was that he was still in Lionel Messi's shadow. Why the fuck is it shaped like a goat? So look, listen, you're Neymar, right? You've just inspired the best comeback in Champions League history, potentially, right, up to that point. You've single-handedly dismantled PSG and taken your team through to the next round, and still the papers the next day were about Lionel Messi. And I get the feeling that at this point in his career, Neymar had kind of had enough of that, even though we spoke at the start of the video about how he was the next natural progression for winning Ballon d'Ors. All he technically had to do was just be patient. Leo and Ronaldo would be too old and he'd be winning everything there is to win. But instead, he wanted to be the main man. And you could argue that is ambitious, but you could also argue it was definitely the detriment to himself, because he would join PSG in 2017 for a world record transfer fee that would completely warp the market. Neymar is the reason Manchester United signed Harry Maguire for £80 million. Neymar is the reason that Todd Boehly exists.
You don't know where I'm from, dog.
He's joined PSG for €222 million and would win the domestic treble in his debut season. But there was only one thing that PSG cared about. They had more money than anybody else in France combined, so they were going to win the league and both cups the majority of seasons. They needed a Champions League, and Neymar was supposed to be the man to bring it to them. Fast forward to 2019-20, and there's an opportunity. COVID's about, everyone's indoors, Boris Johnson's trim is shit. But PSG have the opportunity to break the duck, only for their hearts to be broken by a former PSG Youth Academy graduate playing for Bayern Munich. Despite the emergence of Kylian Mbappe, the signings of Gianluigi Donnarumma, Lionel Messi and Sergio Ramos in the same window, PSG never built an environment either around Neymar or just generally speaking to be able to succeed on a European level, despite all of the funding. And it's led to so many people suggesting that Neymar's move to PSG was a failure. And you could argue it was. The Champions League was the only thing that he and they cared about. And apart from the Bayern Munich final, they never came close to winning it. Ultimately, he left Barcelona, threw away legendary status at the club, joined PSG in the aim to be the main man, only to be arguably overshadowed by Kylian Mbappe and then later Lionel Messi anyway. I'll always understand his reason for going, but ultimately it did backfire. And one other problem, of course, was fitness. A massive amount of injuries. He missed 161 matches through injury whilst at Paris Saint-Germain. But again, it comes down to what I talked about whilst he was at Santos. Most players, their way of dealing with Neymar is to foul him. And when you're getting fouled so frequently, you're going to get injured. He's the most fouled player in recent footballing history. If you combine being fouled all the time with starting your career so early, you're going to burn out naturally earlier. Michael Owen and Wayne Rooney back in the day were playing first team Premier League football aged 17 and 18. I swear Rooney's younger than Ronaldo, no? Compare that to players who maybe got their break a little bit later on, like a Luka Modric, who's aged like fine wine. Lewandowski, who's still out here just doing up TikToks. I do feel for him, and I do wonder where is next for him after this injury. The downwards trajectory, man's gonna be in the Amazonian rainforest leagues back home in Brazil. The over 32s division sponsored by Petrobras. You wouldn't download a forest. To be fair, he'd absolutely tear apart defenders in that league. It's had an adverse effect on him, but also on French football entirely after he's left, with Ligue 1 ratings down, no one bidding for the TV rights for that division. People have just stopped watching it after himself and Lionel Messi have left the league. Kylian Mbappe's concerned looking at the viewing numbers, I can't lie. Who does Neymar pass the torch on to? Who is the next Ney? Anthony hasn't got time for that, spinning about in the background. Ansu Fati's on Brighton Beach. Rafa Leao's posting about him on Instagram saying, if you know, you know. He's not a footballer the streets have forgotten. We were all there. We all know. Realistically, as far as Brazil are concerned, it's Vinicius Jr. And that kind of leads me on to the topic of his career as a general. People People talk about Neymar's career as a failure, even though he's won the treble with Barcelona, the Champions League, has scored over 100 goals for 3 different clubs, a feat that not many people have achieved, and he's the Brazilian national team's top goal scorer. You can't say that his career is a failure, but at the same time, given the hype, the wonderkid status, he was supposed to be that next Pele, the next greatest of all time. And it does feel like it's been a career of missed opportunities and underperformance, to an extent because of that move to PSG, to an extent because of recency bias, and you know, it's been ages since the Barcelona days, but also to an extent because of injuries and the exact type of player that he is. Santos by no means ruined Neymar at all. They are the reason that he's the player that he is today, but at the detriment to his fitness later on in his career, and that's what we're seeing now. Domestically, he probably didn't win as many things as he should have done. He didn't win a Ballon D'Or like he was definitely supposed to, but at the end of the day, you could still argue he was very successful in terms of the amount of trophies that he won. He was just unfortunate with injuries and the timing of his own sister's birthday, at least if it had been in the summer. But what he was also not blessed with was actual ability around him on the international stage. If we look at the great teams of Brazilian history in the generation before him, where R9, Ronaldinho, Rivaldo, Adriano, Roberto Carlos and co are all in the same team, there's not a single thing that squad can't and won't win. If you compare that to the squad at the height of his powers in the 2014 World Cup and pick out names where they lost to Germany 7-1 that include David Luiz, Dante, Luis Gustavo, Bernard, a 47-year-old Maicon, and Fred, and I don't even mean the Manchester United one, then you realise that whilst he's one of the best players Brazil has ever produced, they didn't manage to produce enough good players within the same window for him to actually be successful. So to answer the question, was Neymar's career a failure? Absolutely not, in my opinion. I think he still achieved enough and provided enough of a cultural shift within the sport to suggest he was influential, suggest that he did what he came here to do. The Paris Saint-Germain move was a failure, but at the same time, Barcelona struggled without him in his absence and haven't won a Champions League since he left the club. But either way, hopefully we do see him back close to his best even after this nasty injury at Al Hilal. What do you make of Neymar's career? Let me know down in the comments section below. I'd love to hear your opinions on this because it's quite a polarizing topic, I feel. If you did enjoy, feel free to slap a like on the video and of course subscribe if you're new. Once again, you can follow me on TikTok. It's down in the description along with my Twitter and Insta at @theofficialfng. It's been a pleasure ranting at you guys today. Have a wonderful day, enjoy yourselves, and goodbye.